Hey, what's up everyone? Morey Croson here, and today we're going to be going over the 9 parts of the throw, and we're going to start the video right now. This is the newest edition of the Perform Side.
Reach your individual goals.
You don't want to just talk about straight line speed. We also want to talk about your ability to be quick. We break down your video.
Let's make you into the quarterback I know you can become.
All right, so I'm really excited about this video just because I think there's going to be a ton of great information for quarterbacks. I think it's going to really help you guys out in really understanding what are all, the keys, the components, the parts of the throw that are going to be necessary in order for you to have success. I really think it's 9. I could probably make it up to 12, to be honest with you. I could probably continue to break it down more and more and more. And I do want you guys to realize when you're watching this that the mechanics that I have learned has been all taught through watching the top quarterbacks perform, right? I watch Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Dan Marino, Tom Brady, Joe Montana, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Russell Wilson. I watch these guys throw, and based off of their mechanics, I'm able to see what are the fundamentals, right? What do these guys all share? And I then utilize that into putting it into my own throwing mechanics. Now, I don't have it perfect. I'm not an NFL quarterback by any means, but I do want you guys to realize that this is something that is definitely taught, right? It's not something that I just learned or was gifted with. It is something that can be taught. You can learn it. You just have to take the time, the energy, and the effort into consistently working on it in order to get there. So first thing is going to be the grip, right? So you can see what my grip is, and I've changed it a bunch over the years. I first used to have really 3 fingers on the laces here. My second finger is a little bit above the laces, and then I have my index finger really high. I like spreading out my fingers more. I think that gives me a little bit more wrist flick on the ball, a little bit more control, and it does make a difference on my deeper throws. But really the main thing here is understanding that your grip ends up being super, super important, and making sure that you have a good understanding of what works best for you. You do want to have that like C position in your hands. We have made videos about the grip in the past, and I don't want to skip that in terms of, what's something that's really important. And the next part is going to be the load, and I don't want to, by any means, try to take away from where the load ends up being important, because really when you're loading, you could see I load in 2 places, right? I load with my arms, right, and where my position is of my shoulder and my hand, my wrist, everything like that. But then I also load within the legs, right? So I'm standing tall, right, and then I go and I load into that hip, and then because that ends up being a critical part of how you throw, is how do you load, right? It's the same thing with how you jump, how you accelerate, how you do those things is in a direct correlation to how well you're able to load, or how well you're able to get yourself ready and set up to be able to throw, jump, whatever. A load ends up being a big thing. Now, with that load, and there's a lot of different ways you could do this. You could be high, you could be low, you could really have no load at all. Dan Marino was somebody that really had a super fast load. For me, what I'm just trying to do, and that's what really with the upper body, everybody has to kind of load into that lower body to then allow them to create a push-off, right? So the main thing that you want to be able to understand is the loading is a way for your muscles to be able to stretch or prep themselves to be able to then contract with a lot of force. And so what you have to be able to do is load with that lower body to then be able to push off and get your momentum coming forward, right? And as I'm getting that hip to start to come around, what that's doing and pushing off that back leg is it's creating what's called hip and shoulder disassociation. So what that essentially means is you want to be able to get your hips to be able to come around more than your upper body is, right? So you want to keep that front shoulder back and start to open up the hips. This is something that I could definitely improve on here, but you can see my hips are starting to come through. My shoulders are also coming through as well, even though I'm trying to keep them closed. But this is something that is an important part of it, right? So first we've had the grip, then we have load, then we have disassociation, push off, and then we have disassociation. So those are the 4 that we've done so far. Disassociation is, being able to separate that lower body and upper body, really get those hips around there. Okay, I know this ball looks back behind my head a lot here, but it's definitely not as far back as it looks like. I'm like, almost concerned I wouldn't get a better angle now because of how bad that looks, but no, it's not, because you can see how it comes through. Anyway, All right, so the next part's going to be the transition phase, number 5. And the transition is, so we're loading, right? So some of this has to do with, how the body's going through. So we loaded, now I'm pushing off that back leg, I'm creating that disassociation the best that I can, opening up that front hip. And now what's happening is the ball's starting to come forward, right? And what's important is we want to be able to keep the ball the best that we can in a good plane where it's not getting too far back behind us. You can see I'm allowing that ball to maybe get a little bit too far back behind me here. But really, you want to maintain a good position within, with that ball, because once it gets too far back behind you, it's going to throw off the timing of your throw. Because once it gets back there too far behind you here, it's going to really throw off the timing of your throw. So you want to be controlled in how far back that ball is getting, and really not spend too much time going here, but really be really quick to be able to get that wrist coming around. That's one of the main things we talk about a lot, is having that fast wrist being able to come around. So now we're throwing with our wrist as much on top of the elbow as possible, and really making it so we're having a fairly straight forearm as we're coming through the actual throw. So that ability to really transition with that ball ends up being a big thing. The next thing, right, and all these things are happening so quickly, right? So like 5, 6, 7 are all happening basically simultaneously. So 5 is transition, right? Number 6 is spine position and arm position, right? So this ends up being, how is my spine? Is my spine leaning too far over to the side? Is it leaning back? Is it too far forward? Do I have good strong core rotation? All those things end up being critical at this particular part of the throw. You have to be able to control that spine at this part. And what we commonly see is people leaning over to the side too much, especially on those deeper throws. That's something that I can go into as well. Like that, it's a mistake of mine too. And so being able to control the spine position, arm position is critical, right? And then the other big thing is, how well are we able to control this front leg, right? So the ability to control the front leg and balance through that front leg is also a critical part here. And again, these are all happening simultaneously. The spine position, arm position, the transition of the arm forward, and being able to stabilize through that front leg. And almost more importantly, like as you're releasing, you want to still be able to get your weight coming forward, right? I see so many people that they get to this point, where they're about to release and they already have, shifted all of their weight where their hips are up over their heel, right? And what that does is that makes it so now as the ball is coming through, you don't have any more behind it. You want to be able to release the ball with more force ready to be generated and created there. And so you have to understand that once you get to this position, you want to have still more in the tank, so then when you release it, you're still moving forward, right? You don't want to end up blowing all of your force during the load or during the transition. You want to have a lot of strength still left over. Not a lot of strength, but like 85 to 90% still left in the tank when you're, flicking the ball and releasing the ball, because at the end of the day, that ends up being, the main thing. It's like right when you're about to leave the ground when you're jumping, you're storing energy, and when that foot's coming off the ground, that's really when you start to propel yourself forward or upwards. And so you have to be able to utilize all that, potential, that force potential there at the end. It's the same thing here. Like you want to be building all that force potential at the end, so then when you do number 8, flick the wrist, you have a lot in your body to be able to really let that wrist flick, right? And what's important when you're flicking the wrist is that the wrist should be able to turn that arm over, should fully extend, right? Turn that wrist all the way, or that arm all the way over, so now the elbow is facing straight up. I went from the elbow going here, almost facing like downwards, to as I'm releasing, turning all the way around. So now my pinky's up, my elbow's up, and I'm coming down and across as I'm flicking the wrist and then following through, all right? And that ends up being a critical part here, guys. How well you're able to flick the wrist is really, to me, the make it or break it, right? Because you can, go to the beach, right? Go to the park, go see somebody throw a football or a baseball, and based off of their wrist flick, you'll be like, oh wow, that guy has an arm or not. I guarantee you could tell how well somebody could throw just by seeing how they flick the wrist, or if whether or not they're able to throw the ball well. So work on your wrist flick. Understand how to control the wrist. It's super important. And then the last thing is, the follow through. Want to be following through down towards that back or towards that front left pocket there as you're coming through. I'm coming a little bit too far across, I would say. I would like to see it more downwards and across there. But yeah, I mean, we all have flaws, right? Like watching this, I'm saying, my front or my spine position isn't great, right? I think I get the ball back too far behind my head. I didn't follow through great. I didn't have great hip and shoulder disassociation, right? So there's a lot of things to be able to work on, guys. Like when you send in your breakdowns, when we do this program, this is not an easy thing to be able to really get all of these steps correct. That's why you need to get coaching. That's why you want to have a process. That's why you want to have somebody that is able to look at it and say, okay, this part needs to get better. This is how we can make those improvements. And so that's why I'm always trying to educate you guys to be able to help you in understanding that, like, this is complicated. There's a lot that goes on. It should be simple, right? I don't want to make it so you have too many different things going on. But what happens with a lot of quarterbacks is that if you don't get a structured program, it ends up being way too much, right? Because now you're thinking about a lot of different parts of your mechanics when really it should be, one or two things that are really priority, because based off of what's going on within your throw, we want to really prioritize, again, one or two things. And really priority is making one thing the main part, but a lot of times there's one thing that could also go into another. So that's why I say, one or two. But, I don't like to going into anything over two, because now it starts to make it so your mind gets cluttered. It starts to make it so you get a little bit more confused. It starts to make it so you really, don't understand what's going on. That ends up being the main thing that I think is super disappointing that I see with quarterbacks and quarterback coaches, is when they're getting confused, when the athletes are getting confused. They don't know exactly what they should be doing because of how it's all being taught. And so that's why I want to make it all simple. That's why I do these videos, to make it so hopefully for you, it can be very simple in understanding how to improve your mechanics. So check out the throw program that we have down below. It is $50 off for the rest of January. I think it's a great deal, guys. It's going to be 2022's program is better than any program it has ever had. My understanding of how to teach mechanics and how you should be throwing is better than it's ever been. And so, I'm really doing this just to be able to help you guys out, get a good jump start into January and 2022. But hopefully you get more new people to be able to sign up as well. I have a lot of people that have been doing this for a long period of time and would like to get more and more new people to be able to sign up. So if you guys are interested, go and check the link down below, and it's a money back guarantee. So if you guys have any issues or anything like that, I'd be happy to give your money back. So yeah, thanks for watching again, and we'll talk to you soon.